I stood in my mother's living room on the morning of my son Garrett's 8th birthday, watching her mouth move but barely processing the words. My mother, Dorothy, had just announced she was canceling the party we had been planning for 2 months because my sister Amanda complained her twin daughters, age 6, would feel left out and not special enough. My wife, Julie, held back tears while Garrett sat on the stairs, hearing everything. Dorothy said Amanda's feelings mattered more because she had been through a difficult divorce. I felt my entire childhood rushing back, always second to Amanda, always the one expected to sacrifice. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice steady. The decorations were already hung in the backyard. The cake was ordered from the bakery downtown. 12 kids were supposed to arrive in 4 hours. I looked at my mother and said we could still have the party and make Amanda's twins feel included with special roles, maybe as birthday helpers or something. They could hand out party favors or help with games. Dorothy shook her head firmly. She crossed her arms over her chest and told me Amanda had already made it clear she would not come to any family events if Garrett's party happened. Not just this party, but any future holidays, any gatherings, anything. My sister was holding the entire family hostage over an 8-year-old's birthday party. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I asked my mother when Amanda had told her this. Dorothy looked away, toward the window, and admitted Amanda had talked to her about it weeks ago. Weeks. She had known for weeks and waited until the morning of the party to tell us. The morning of. When everything was ready, when Garrett had been counting down the days, when invitations had been sent and RSVPs received. Dorothy said she thought maybe Amanda would change her mind, but last night Amanda called again and said if the party happened, she was done with the family. My mother actually used those words, done with the family, as if Amanda got to decide who stayed and who went. I asked why Amanda cared so much about a birthday party for her nephew. Dorothy's face tightened. She said Amanda told her that Garrett gets too much attention and her daughters were starting to notice the favoritism. Favoritism. My son, who saw his grandmother maybe once a month, was somehow getting favoritism over the twins who lived 20 minutes away and visited twice a week. My mother insisted I call all the parents and cancel. She said it was my responsibility to keep the family peace. Those words, family peace, had ruled my entire childhood. Every time I wanted something, every time I had a need or a wish or a dream, it was always about keeping the family peace. And keeping the family peace always meant giving Amanda whatever she wanted. Julie stepped forward. Her voice was shaking but clear. She said this was emotional manipulation, and it was wrong. Dorothy's expression went cold in a way I had seen 1,000 times before. She told Julie that if she could not respect family dynamics, maybe she was the problem. Maybe Julie was the one causing division. My mother actually blamed my wife for not wanting to cancel our son's birthday party. I looked at my father, Warren, sitting in his recliner in the corner of the room. He was staring at the television even though it was not turned on. His face was blank. He would not look at me. He never looked at me when these things happened. My whole life, my father had been a ghost in his own house, letting my mother and sister run everything, never saying a word, never taking a side, never protecting me from anything. I told my mother I needed to talk to Garrett. I went upstairs and found him sitting on his bed. He had packed a small backpack with his favorite action figures, a book, and his stuffed dog he had since he was 2. He looked up at me with eyes that were too old for 8 years. He said he did not want to be where he was not wanted. Something broke inside me right then. Not broke like shattered, but broke like a lock opening. I saw my son already learning the lesson I had spent 32 years learning. That his needs did not matter, that his feelings were negotiable, that his happiness could be traded away to keep someone else comfortable. And I decided right then that I would not let him grow up like I did. I went back downstairs. Julie was standing by the front door with her purse, ready to leave. My mother was in the kitchen, already on the phone. I heard her saying my name to someone, probably Amanda, telling her the party was canceled and everything was fine. I walked into the kitchen and took the phone from my mother's hand. I hung it up. Dorothy stared at me like I had slapped her. I told her we were leaving, not just for the day, permanently. I was done sacrificing my son's happiness for Amanda's ego. My mother laughed. Actually laughed. She said I was being dramatic and I would be back by dinner. She said I always did this, always made threats I did not keep. She waved her hand like she was dismissing a child. I pulled out my phone. Julie had left it on the kitchen counter earlier when she was helping set up. The screen was still unlocked. I saw text messages from Amanda to Julie from 3 days ago. Messages I had never seen before. Messages Julie had never told me about. Amanda had written, "If you really cared about family, you would convince Stanley to postpone Garrett's party. My girls are struggling with the divorce and they need to feel special right now. Garrett can have a party anytime." There were more messages. Amanda telling Julie she was selfish. Amanda saying Julie was turning me against the family. Amanda threatening that if Julie did not help cancel the party, Amanda would make sure everyone knew what kind of person Julie really was. Julie had been trying to handle it herself. She had been trying to protect me from more stress, trying to fix things quietly, trying to make peace. And Amanda had been systematically manipulating both of us, playing us against each other, setting traps. I showed the messages to my mother. Dorothy barely glanced at them. She said Amanda was just emotional because of the divorce. She said I needed to be more understanding. More understanding. My sister had been plotting for weeks to ruin my son's birthday, and I needed to be more understanding. I told my mother we were done. Julie grabbed Garrett's hand. My father finally looked up from his chair. He opened his mouth like he might say something, then closed it again. Always silent, always absent. We walked out the door. My mother called after us that we would be back, that we always came back. That family was family, and we could not just walk away. But we did. We walked to our car, got in and drove away, and I knew we were not coming back. Not that day, not ever, not the way things were. We drove straight home in silence. Garrett sat in the back seat, still holding his backpack. Julie reached over and squeezed my hand. When we pulled into our driveway, I made a decision that had probably been building for years without me realizing it. I called Julie's brother, Ryan. He lived an hour away and worked in logistics. I asked him if he could help us move. Today, right now. He did not ask questions. He just said he would be there in 90 minutes with his truck. While we waited, Julie and I sat at the kitchen table. She told me about the messages from Amanda. She had received them while at work and had been trying to figure out how to tell me without making things worse. She knew I was already stressed about the party and dealing with my mother. She thought maybe she could handle Amanda herself, maybe convince her to back off. She had no idea Amanda had already gone to Dorothy weeks earlier. I told Julie about the job offer her company had made 6 months ago. The remote position based in Portland, Oregon. She had turned it down because we had roots here in Ohio, because my parents were here, because she thought Garrett needed his extended family. I asked her to call them back, to see if the position was still available. Julie looked at me for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone and made the call. 15 minutes later, she hung up and said the job was hers if she wanted it. They had been holding out hope she would reconsider. They could start her in 2 weeks. Remote work until we relocated. Then an office space would be ready for her in Portland. Ryan arrived with his truck and 2 of his friends. We started packing. Clothes first, then important documents, then everything else we could fit. Furniture could stay. We would buy new furniture. This was about getting out fast and getting out clean. Garrett helped pack his room. He asked if we were really moving away. I knelt down and told him yes. We were going somewhere new, somewhere we could start fresh, somewhere his birthday would not get canceled because someone else did not want him to be happy. He hugged me tighter than he had in months. We worked through the afternoon and into the evening. By 9 o'clock that night, the truck was loaded. Our landlord was understanding when I called and explained we needed to break our lease early due to family emergency. He said he would keep our deposit to cover the gap, and we could leave the keys in the mailbox. Small-town landlords could be flexible like that when they knew you. I called my mother. She answered on the first ring, her voice tight. She said she hoped I had calmed down and was ready to apologize. Apologize? For what? For not letting her cancel my son's birthday party? For not sacrificing him on the altar of Amanda's ego? I told her we were moving. Tonight. Across the country. We would be gone by morning. There was silence on the other end. Then she laughed again. That same dismissive laugh. She said I was being ridiculous. I did not have a job in Portland. We did not have a place to live. I was bluffing. I sent her a photo of the moving truck, fully loaded, Ryan's truck parked behind it. I told her Julie had a job waiting. We would figure out the rest. Then I told her not to call us, not to text, not to show up. We were done. Dorothy's voice changed. She started yelling, saying I was punishing her for trying to keep the family together, saying I was being cruel and selfish. Then I heard another voice in the background. Amanda. She grabbed the phone from my mother. Amanda screamed at me that I was traumatizing her daughters. They had been asking why Garrett's party got canceled, and now they were going to ask why he was leaving. I was making everything about me. I was being vindictive. I was a terrible brother and a worse uncle. The manipulation was so clear now. Amanda was making herself the victim even as she destroyed everything. Her daughters were upset because she had poisoned them against us, used them as weapons, and now she was blaming me for the fallout. I hung up. I blocked both numbers. My father sent a text 5 minutes later. It said, "Your mother is crying. I hope you are happy." I blocked him too. We left at midnight. Ryan drove the moving truck. Julie drove our car with Garrett asleep in the back seat. I followed in Ryan's car. We drove through the night, stopped at a motel the next day to sleep, then drove another full day. Garrett woke up somewhere in Wyoming and asked if we were almost there. I told him soon. He smiled and went back to sleep. We arrived in Portland on the 3rd day. Ryan helped us unload into a short-term rental apartment Julie had found online. It was small but clean, in a good neighborhood with decent schools nearby. We would look for a permanent place once we got settled. The first week was chaos. Enrolling Garrett in school, getting Julie set up for remote work, me searching for jobs online. But there was something different in the air, something lighter. Garrett was not tiptoeing around, not watching every word, not waiting for someone to tell him he was too much or not enough. He was just being a kid. 2 weeks after we arrived, I got a message on Facebook from my cousin Derek. I had not talked to Derek in 5 years. We had been close as kids, but drifted apart as adults. His message said the whole extended family was talking about what happened. He wanted to hear my side. I almost deleted it, but something made me read the rest. Derek said Amanda had been telling everyone her version, that Dorothy had simply asked me to be more considerate of Amanda's daughters who were struggling with their parents' divorce, that I had exploded and cut off the entire family, that I refused to let Garrett have any contact with his grandmother or cousins, that I moved across the country out of spite. Derek said dozens of relatives believed Amanda. My phone had been blowing up for 2 weeks, but I had not noticed because I blocked most of the numbers. I logged into Facebook for the first time since we left Ohio. My messages were flooded. Aunts, uncles, cousins, I barely knew. All of them telling me I was heartless, cruel, selfish, a bad son, a bad brother, a bad father for taking Garrett away from his family. My grandmother, Ruth, who practically raised me while my parents worked, had left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. She said she was ashamed of me, that she never thought I would abandon my family like this, that she was praying for me to come to my senses. I sat on the floor of our new apartment and felt the weight of it. Amanda had won. She got to control the narrative. She got to be the victim. She got everyone on her side. And I was the villain. Julie found me there an hour later. She sat beside me and took my phone. She read through the messages. Then she deleted the Facebook app from my phone. She said we were not going to defend ourselves. We were not going to fight Amanda on her terms. We were going to live our lives and let the truth come out naturally, if it ever did. And if it did not, we would still be okay. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell everyone what really happened. But I looked at Garrett playing with his toys in the corner, humming to himself, relaxed in a way I had not seen in Ohio. And I realized Julie was right. Fighting Amanda meant staying connected to the toxicity. It meant giving her power over us. It meant teaching Garrett that we cared more about being right than being happy. So I let it go. Or at least I tried to. The next few months were a blur of adjustments. Garrett started third grade at a school 3 blocks from our apartment. The teacher, Mrs. Patterson, was kind and patient. She called after the first week to say Garrett was doing well but seemed cautious, like he was waiting for something bad to happen. I explained we had just moved from Ohio, and he was adjusting. She said she would keep an eye on him. By October, something shifted in Garrett. He made friends with a boy named Lucas, who lived in our building. They played soccer in the courtyard after school. Lucas invited Garrett to join a local youth soccer league. We signed him up. Garrett had never played organized sports before. In Ohio, Amanda's twins did gymnastics, and Dorothy always made a big deal about going to their practices and shows. When I mentioned soccer for Garrett, my mother said it was too expensive, and we should wait until he was older. Here in Portland, nobody told us what we could or could not do. The league cost $80 for the season. We paid it. Garrett got a uniform. He practiced twice a week. He was not very good at first, but he loved it. That was enough. Julie's job was going well. She got promoted within 3 months to senior project manager. The pay increase meant we could start looking at houses. We found a small 3-bedroom place in a neighborhood with good schools and a yard, a real yard with grass and a fence. We closed on it in November. I found work as a project manager at a tech startup downtown. The company was small but growing. The people were young and energetic. Nobody asked about my family or why we moved from Ohio. They just cared if I could do the job. It was refreshing. For Garrett's actual birthday celebration, 1 month after the disaster in Ohio, we threw a party at a local park. 10 kids from his new school came. We had pizza and a superhero-themed cake from a bakery near our apartment. Garrett's face when everyone sang happy birthday was pure joy. No tension, no drama, no wondering if someone was going to ruin it. I took a photo of Garrett blowing out his candles, surrounded by new friends who barely knew him, but showed up because they wanted to. I did not post it online. We kept it for ourselves, but the anger was still there, under everything. I would wake up at 3 in the morning thinking about my childhood. Every time Amanda wanted something, I was expected to give it up. Not asked. Expected. The bike I saved my allowance for 6 months to buy? Given to Amanda when she decided she wanted to learn to ride. My parents said they could not afford 2 bikes. I was 9. Amanda was 11. My college fund, the one my grandparents started when I was born, partially diverted to pay for Amanda's wedding when I was 19. My parents said it was a loan, and they would pay it back. They never did. I ended up taking out student loans while Amanda had a $15,000 wedding. The garage apartment above my parents' house, the one they promised Julie and me for our first year of marriage, given to Amanda when her divorce started. My mother said Amanda needed it more because she was going through trauma. Julie and I stayed in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment and paid rent while Amanda lived rent-free in a space that was supposed to be ours. Every memory was like that. A long chain of moments where I learned my needs did not matter, where I learned to make myself small, where I learned that love was conditional on how much I could sacrifice. Julie noticed I was struggling. She suggested therapy. I resisted at first. Therapy felt like admitting defeat, like saying I could not handle my own problems. But the nightmares were getting worse. I would dream about being back in my mother's house, trapped, unable to leave while Amanda took everything and my parents watched. I finally went. The therapist, a woman named Dr. Chen. Wait, no. The therapist, a woman named Dr. Patricia Morrison, was in her 50s, with a calm voice. She asked me when I first learned my needs did not matter. I told her about the Christmas when I was 9. I had asked for months for a particular video game console. I did chores without being asked. I got good grades. I saved birthday money from relatives. On Christmas morning, Amanda opened a box with the console inside. I got socks and a book. My mother said they could not afford 2 consoles, but Amanda was older and deserved it more because she had been so good that year. I cried in the therapist's office for the first time since I was a kid. Dr. Morrison handed me tissues and said it was okay to grieve the childhood I should have had. Over several sessions, she helped me see patterns I had never noticed. How my father's silence was a choice, not just a personality trait. How my mother had learned this behavior from her own mother, who also had a golden child and a scapegoat. How Amanda had learned to exploit the system because it worked. How this pattern goes back generations in some families. Dr. Morrison asked me to write a letter to my parents. Not to send, just to process. I wrote it over a weekend. 10 pages. Everything I had never said. Every hurt. Every time I felt invisible. Every time I needed them, and they chose Amanda instead. While writing, I remembered something I had buried. When Julie was pregnant with Garrett, Amanda was pregnant with the twins. My mother threw Amanda a massive baby shower at a rented hall, 60 guests, catered food, professional decorations, games with prizes. It must have cost thousands. 2 months later, Julie's baby shower happened. My mother said she was too tired to help plan it. She showed up for an hour and left early. Julie's friends threw the shower at someone's house. It was potluck, paper plates, no games. My mother never even asked if we needed help or money. She just assumed we would figure it out. I never confronted her because I was so used to it. It felt normal. Amanda gets the big gestures. I get the scraps. That is just how it is. Dr. Morrison pointed out that this pattern would have continued with Garrett. He would have become the scapegoat to Amanda's daughters, the one who always had to share, always had to wait, always had to be understanding. She said by leaving, I broke a generational curse. I stopped the cycle. That thought helped. When I felt guilty about cutting off my parents, I reminded myself, I was protecting my son from decades of damage. Garrett thrived in Portland. By December, he was a different kid. He laughed more. He asked for things without apologizing. He had opinions and shared them. He joined a library reading club. He made the soccer team's starting lineup. His teacher said he was coming out of his shell. We bought a dog, a golden retriever puppy we named Bailey. Garrett had been asking for a dog for years. In Ohio, my mother said dogs were too much work and we were not responsible enough. Here, we just went to a shelter and adopted one. Garrett's face when we brought Bailey home was worth everything we had been through. For Christmas, just the 3 of us, we decorated our new house. We got a real tree and let Garrett pick out all the ornaments. Julie made cookies. We watched movies and played games. It was quiet and simple and perfect. I thought about my parents on Christmas morning, wondered if they were thinking about us, wondered if they regretted what happened. Then I looked at Garrett opening presents, Bailey jumping around trying to play with the wrapping paper, Julie smiling in her pajamas. And I realized I did not care what my parents were thinking. This was enough. This was everything. January turned into February, then March. Spring came to Portland with rain and cherry blossoms. Garrett finished his soccer season. His team did not win the championship, but they made the playoffs. At the final game, they got medals. Garrett wore his for 3 days straight. The team took a photo holding a trophy for second place. The coach posted it on the team's public Facebook page, tagging all the parents. I saw it but did not think much of it. We were not hiding. We just were not advertising our lives to people back in Ohio. But Derek, my cousin, saw it. He followed one of Julie's friends from high school who had shared the photo. Derek sent it to the extended family group chat I had been removed from months ago. I did not know this was happening. I was just living my life. The photo spread. My Aunt Linda shared it. My Uncle Carl commented on it. And eventually, it reached Amanda. Her daughters saw it. Zoe and Mia, now 7 years old, asked their mother why Garrett was so happy. Why did he have a trophy? Why did he have so many friends in the photo? Amanda told them. According to what I learned later, that Garrett's parents were spoiling him and he was probably miserable deep down. But kids are smarter than adults give them credit for. The twins were curious. One afternoon at my mother's house, Zoe asked Dorothy if they could video call Garrett. She missed her cousin. She wanted to see where he lived now. Dorothy, feeling the weight of guilt she had been carrying, actually considered it. She tried to reach out through an old email address Julie used for online shopping. It was one we forgot to close when we left. Julie checked it randomly one day and found a message from my mother. The email said, The girls miss Garrett. Amanda thinks a video call might help them feel connected to family. Can we arrange something? Julie showed me the email. My first instinct was to delete it and block the address. But Julie thought maybe this was an olive branch. Maybe my mother was trying to make amends. Maybe the twins really did miss Garrett, and this could be a small, safe way to reconnect. I was suspicious. I knew Amanda. I knew how she operated. But I also thought about Garrett's cousins. They were just kids. They did not create this mess. Maybe they deserved a chance to know their cousin. I asked Garrett if he wanted to video call his cousins. He thought about it and shrugged. He said he did not remember them very well. They only saw each other at family events, and Amanda always kept the twins close to her, never letting them play with Garrett for long. But he said sure. Why not? We set it up for a Saturday afternoon. Julie, Garrett, and I sat on the couch. I had my laptop ready. We sent Dorothy the video call link. I told Julie this was a one-time thing. If it went badly, we were done. The call connected. Dorothy appeared on screen first, in her living room. She looked older than I remembered, tired. She smiled when she saw Garrett, and said he looked so grown up. Garrett waved politely. Then the twins came into view. Zoe and Mia looked like miniature versions of Amanda. Same dark hair, same sharp eyes. They seemed excited, asking Garrett questions rapid fire. How was Oregon? Was it always rainy? Did he like his new school? Did he play any sports? Garrett answered patiently. He told them about soccer and Bailey and his friend Lucas. He said Oregon was pretty, and yes, it rained a lot, but he did not mind. The twins seemed genuinely interested. Then Zoe asked a question that made my blood run cold. She said, "Are you sad you do not have family anymore?" Garrett looked confused. He said he had family. He had his mom and dad. Zoe glanced off camera, like she was checking with someone. Then she said, "But Mommy says you do not have grandparents or aunts or cousins now because your daddy was mean." The room went silent. I felt Julie tense beside me. Before I could respond, Amanda's voice cut in from off camera. Sharp and fake sweet. She said, "Girls, do not say that." But the damage was done. Garrett looked at me, his face worried. He asked if that was true, if everyone thought I was mean, if we really did not have family anymore. I kept my voice calm. I told Garrett that sometimes families disagree about what is right, and sometimes people tell different versions of what happened. I explained that I chose to make sure he grew up feeling loved and important. That was not mean. That was being a good dad. Zoe and Mia looked confused. Then Mia, the quieter twin, said something that broke my heart. She said, "Mommy cries a lot. Grandma says it is because Uncle Stanley hurt her feelings." I could see Dorothy on screen, looking uncomfortable. Amanda was still off camera, but I could hear her breathing. She was listening to every word. This whole call was a setup, a way to make me look bad in front of my son, to plant doubt, to make Garrett feel guilty. I told the girls I was sorry their mom was sad, but adults sometimes have complicated feelings. I said I hoped they were doing okay and taking care of each other. Then I told them we had to go. Garrett had homework. It was a lie, but I needed to end this. Zoe started to protest. Dorothy said, "Wait, please, could they talk more?" But I closed the laptop. The screen went black. Garrett sat there, processing. He asked why everyone was saying those things, why his cousins thought we did not have family, why Grandma said I hurt Amanda's feelings. Julie took his hand. She explained that when people do not get what they want, sometimes they tell stories that make them feel better. Amanda wanted us to cancel his birthday party, and we said no. She wanted us to stay even when we were unhappy, and we left. So she told people a story where she was the victim, and we were the bad guys. Garrett asked if that was fair. I said no, it was not fair. But life was not always fair. What mattered was that we knew the truth, and we knew we made the right choice. He thought about that. Then he asked if he could go play with Bailey in the yard. I said yes. He got up and walked out, like the weight of it had not quite landed yet, but it landed on me. Hard. Amanda was not just lying to extended family. She was traumatizing her own daughters with a victim narrative. She was teaching them that Garrett was the enemy, that I was the villain, that my mother was the suffering saint. She was poisoning them the same way my mother had poisoned her. Julie saw the look on my face. She said we did the right thing ending the call. We could not control what Amanda told her kids. We could only control how we raised ours. I wanted to believe that. But I was angry. Angrier than I had been in months. Amanda was not going to stop. She was going to keep pushing, keep manipulating, keep trying to hurt us however she could. 2 weeks after the video call, Amanda made a Facebook post. It was long, detailed, and public, set to friends of friends, which meant hundreds of people could see it. Julie's friend sent her a screenshot. The post was a masterpiece of manipulation. Amanda wrote about how her brother had abandoned the family after she asked for a small accommodation for her daughters who were suffering from divorce trauma. She said she simply requested that we be more sensitive to the twins' emotional needs, and I exploded. She claimed we cut off all contact, refused to let Garrett know his cousins, and poisoned our son against his own grandmother. She included old photos, pictures of me and Garrett at family gatherings, Garrett sitting on my mother's lap, Amanda and me as kids. She captioned them with things like, "Before he decided we were not good enough," and "My daughters ask about their cousin every day and I have to tell them his parents won't let them talk." The comments section filled up fast. People I had not thought about in years weighed in. High school acquaintances saying they always knew something was off about me. Neighbors from our old street saying they were not surprised. People who had never met Garrett saying it was cruel to keep a child from his grandmother. Someone started a prayer chain for my mother. Dorothy was painted as a heartbroken woman whose son abandoned her for no reason. Amanda positioned herself as the caring sister trying to hold the family together, while I selfishly destroyed it. The post got shared dozens of times. It showed up in groups for our hometown. Someone sent it to Julie's old workplace. And then, somehow, it reached my current boss in Portland. His name was Greg. He called me into his office on a Thursday afternoon. He said he needed to ask me about something personal. He showed me a screenshot of Amanda's post. Someone from Ohio who connected with him on LinkedIn had sent it, asking if he knew he employed someone who cut off his own family. I felt my face go hot. I explained the situation as calmly as I could. The canceled birthday party, the lifetime of favoritism, the manipulation. Greg listened and said he believed me. He said everyone had family drama, and it was not his business. But he wanted me to know it was out there because professional reputation mattered. I thanked him and left his office feeling humiliated. Amanda had reached into my new life, my fresh start, and tried to poison it. She was escalating. Julie's mother, Susan, called that night. She lived in California and had mostly stayed neutral through everything. She was a kind woman who always tried to see the best in everyone. She said Amanda had reached out to her, sent her a friend request on Facebook, then a long message explaining her version of events. Amanda asked Susan to talk sense into Julie, to convince her to make me reconsider cutting off the family. Susan told me she saw through it immediately. She knew Amanda's type. She had a sister like that. But she warned us that Amanda was not going to stop. This was not about reconciliation. This was about winning. And people like Amanda never stop until they win, or until they are completely cut off from access. I asked Susan what I should do. She said document everything. Save every message, every post, every email. Because people like Amanda eventually overplay their hand. And when they do, you need proof. I started a folder on my computer. Screenshots of Amanda's Facebook post. Copies of the old text messages to Julie. The threatening email from my mother. The call log showing dozens of blocked numbers from Ohio area codes. I did not know what I would do with it, but I collected it all. Then, 3 weeks after the Facebook post, I got a certified letter. It came to our house in Portland. Julie brought it inside, her hands shaking. Certified mail always means something serious. I opened it. It was from a law firm in Ohio. The letter was addressed to me and stated that it represented Dorothy Harrison and Amanda Kemp, my mother and sister. It claimed they were seeking grandparent visitation rights, and that I was engaging in parental alienation by moving Garrett across the country and refusing contact with his family. The letter said that under Ohio law, grandparents can petition for visitation if it is in the best interest of the child. It stated that my actions had severed Garrett's relationship with his grandmother, aunt, and cousins, causing emotional harm. It demanded I agree to regular visits and video calls or face legal action. I sat at the kitchen table and read it 3 times. Julie looked over my shoulder. She started crying. She had read about grandparent rights cases online after we moved. She knew that in some states, grandparents could win. She was terrified they could force us to send Garrett back to Ohio for visits. I called a family lawyer in Portland the next morning. Her name was Patricia Holloway. She had good reviews and specialized in custody and family disputes. I explained everything. She listened, took notes, and said we needed to meet in person. At her office 2 days later, Patricia reviewed the letter. She explained that Oregon had different laws than Ohio. Grandparent rights in Oregon were narrow. They typically required proof that the child had a significant existing relationship with the grandparents and that denying access would cause harm. We had moved voluntarily. Garrett was thriving. He had friends, good grades, activities he loved. There was no evidence that lack of contact with Dorothy was harming him. In fact, the opposite was true. He was happier and healthier than he had been in Ohio. Patricia said the case was weak, but she warned it would be expensive and stressful to fight. Filing a response would cost money. If they pushed forward, there would be court dates, possible depositions, legal fees. Even a weak case could drag on for months and cost thousands of dollars. I asked if they were serious or if this was a scare tactic. Patricia said probably both. Many grandparent rights cases are filed to intimidate parents into compliance. The threat of legal action is often enough to make people give in, but I was not giving in. I hired Patricia and told her to fight it. She drafted a response denying the claims and outlining the history of favoritism, manipulation, and the canceled birthday party. She included evidence of Amanda's harassment. We filed it with the Oregon courts since we were residents here now. I realized what was happening. Amanda and Dorothy were willing to spend money they did not have, drag us through legal battles, and use the court system as a weapon, all to punish me for leaving, all to maintain control. The golden child and the enabling mother united, and they would burn everything down before they admitted they were wrong. Patricia's response letter was thorough. She detailed the pattern of favoritism going back years. She included Dorothy's own words about canceling the birthday party. She attached screenshots of Amanda's manipulative texts to Julie. She referenced Amanda's public Facebook post as evidence of harassment and defamation. The letter argued that Dorothy and Amanda had no standing for grandparent rights in Oregon. It pointed out that we moved for legitimate employment reasons, not to alienate Garrett from his family. It included a statement from Garrett's teacher about how well he was adjusting and thriving. Patricia sent the response to the Ohio law firm representing my mother and sister. Their lawyer backed down within a week. He sent a brief reply stating that his clients were reconsidering their options and would not be pursuing the matter at this time. Patricia said this was typical. The case was always a bluff. They hoped the threat of legal action would scare us into submission. When they realized we would fight and had evidence on our side, they retreated, but Amanda could not let it go. She started calling Julie's workplace. Not once or twice, multiple times a day. She called the main office line and asked to speak to Julie's supervisor. She sent emails to the company's general contact address. She claimed Julie was keeping a child from his family and asked if the company knew they employed someone who supported parental alienation. Julie's boss, a man named Richard, was understanding at first. He told Julie he knew family situations could be complicated, but after the 5th call in 2 days, he asked Julie to handle it. The calls were disruptive. Other employees were noticing. It was affecting productivity. Julie was humiliated. She had worked hard to build a reputation at this company. She had earned her promotion. And now, Amanda was trying to destroy that too. I contacted Patricia again. She said this was harassment. We could file for a restraining order. It would require going to court and presenting evidence. But given Amanda's pattern of behavior, we had a strong case. We filed the petition. A temporary restraining order was granted pending a hearing. The order prohibited Amanda from contacting us, coming near our home, or calling Julie's workplace. It was valid for 2 weeks until the formal hearing. The hearing was scheduled for a Wednesday morning in late April. Patricia said we should attend. It would show the judge we were serious. She prepared a packet of evidence: the texts, the Facebook post, the call logs from Julie's work, the threatening legal letter. We walked into the courthouse that Wednesday. It was smaller than I expected. There were maybe 10 other cases on the docket that day. We sat in the back and waited. When our case was called, we moved to the front. Patricia stood beside us, and then I saw them. Dorothy and Amanda, sitting on the other side of the courtroom, both dressed in black dresses like they were attending a funeral. Dorothy looked smaller than I remembered. Amanda looked angry. The judge, a woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes, reviewed the case file. She asked Patricia to present our evidence. Patricia walked through it methodically. The texts from before we left Ohio, the Facebook post that went viral, the calls to Julie's workplace, the legal threat about grandparent rights. The judge listened without expression. Then she asked Amanda if she wanted to respond. Amanda stood up. She did not have a lawyer. She said she could not afford one. She started talking, her voice shaking. She said she missed her brother. She missed her nephew. Her daughters asked about Garrett every day, and she did not know what to tell them. She was just trying to keep the family together. She never meant to harass anyone. She was just emotional because of her divorce and the stress of single parenting. She cried. Real tears. Dorothy cried too. It was a performance, and it was convincing. I saw the judge's expression soften slightly. Then the judge asked the question that changed everything. She said, "Why did you not simply apologize for the birthday party incident and try to rebuild the relationship respectfully?" Amanda's face went blank. She looked at Dorothy, then back at the judge, and she said, "I did not do anything wrong. He is the one who overreacted. I was just trying to protect my daughter's feelings." The courtroom was silent. The judge waited. Amanda continued, "My daughters needed to feel special, and Garrett always got too much attention. I was asking for one small thing, one party, and he acted like I was asking him to give up his child." The judge's expression hardened. She said, "So you do not believe you did anything wrong by asking your brother to cancel his son's birthday party?" Amanda hesitated. Then she said, "No, I was being a good mother. He should have understood that." The judge made the restraining order permanent for 1 year. She noted that Amanda showed no insight into her behavior, that her actions constituted a pattern of harassment, that the calls to Julie's workplace were particularly concerning. She warned Amanda that any violation of the order would result in criminal charges. Dorothy looked stunned. Amanda looked furious. We stood and walked out. Patricia said it went better than expected. The moment Amanda said she did nothing wrong, the case was over. Judges see through that kind of thing. Outside the courthouse, Dorothy tried to approach me. She called my name. I kept walking. She followed, her voice rising. She said, "You have destroyed this family. Your father had a heart attack last month because of the stress you caused. Is that what you wanted?" I stopped, turned around, asked if Dad was okay. Dorothy's face changed. She realized she had my attention. She said he was recovering but weak. The doctor said stress was a factor. She blamed me. She said all the family turmoil, all the fighting, it was too much for his heart. Patricia gently pulled me away. She reminded me not to engage. We got to the car and drove home. That night, I could not stop thinking about my father. A heart attack. Was he really sick? Or was this another manipulation? I did not know. I called the main hospital in my hometown using a general inquiry line. I asked if Warren Harrison had been admitted recently. I gave his date of birth. The nurse checked the records. She said there was no recent admission for anyone by that name. I called the other hospital in the county. Same answer. No record. Dorothy had lied. My father had not had a heart attack. It was another manipulation, another attempt to use guilt to control me. I sat in my car in our driveway, and realized I had been holding on to hope. A small, stupid hope that maybe my mother would change. Maybe she would see what she had done and apologize. Maybe somewhere deep down, she actually loved me and wanted me to be happy, but she did not. She was willing to lie about my father having a heart attack just to manipulate me. There was no bottom to it. No line she would not cross. I went inside. Julie was putting Garrett to bed. I told her what happened. She held me while I cried for the second time since leaving Ohio. Not because I was sad, because I was finally accepting the truth. My mother was never going to change. My sister was never going to change, and I had to stop waiting for it. Summer came to Portland. School let out. Garrett's soccer league started a new season. Bailey got bigger and learned to fetch. Julie and I planted a garden in our backyard. Tomatoes and peppers and herbs. Small things that made the house feel like ours. In late July, 3 months after the restraining order hearing, Derek reached out again, this time through email. He said he was sorry. He had been thinking about everything that happened. He started asking other family members questions, talking to cousins, aunts, uncles who had been around when we were kids. Several people remembered things. Uncle Paul remembered the bike incident when I was 9. Aunt Linda remembered the college fund being used for Amanda's wedding. Cousin Jessica remembered my mother always defending Amanda no matter what she did. Derek said he realized Amanda's version of events did not add up. He talked to a few people privately, and they started questioning it too. He asked if I would be willing to talk to our grandmother, Ruth. I thought about it for a week. Ruth was 83 now. She practically raised me while my parents worked long hours. I spent summers at her house learning to fish and bake cookies. She had left that voicemail months ago saying she was ashamed of me. It hurt more than anything my parents said. I agreed to one phone call. Just one. If it went badly, I would walk away for good. Derek set it up. Ruth called on a Saturday afternoon. Her voice was softer than I remembered. She said my name like a question. Stanley? I said hello. There was a long pause. Then she said she was sorry. She said she had been thinking and remembering. She called Dorothy and asked hard questions. She talked to Warren alone, without my mother in the room. Piece by piece, she reconstructed what really happened. She remembered now. Remembered all the times I was overlooked as a child. All the times Amanda got what she wanted, while I learned to stay quiet. All the times Dorothy made excuses for Amanda and blamed me for causing problems. She said she was ashamed of herself, not me. She should have stood up for me back then. She should have protected me. She was supposed to be the adult, the grandparent, the safe person, and she failed me. I did not know what to say. I had expected accusations or more manipulation. I did not expect an apology. Ruth asked if she could have a relationship with Garrett, separate from Dorothy and Amanda, just her and us. She understood if I said no. She said she would respect whatever I decided. I told her I needed to think about it. She said she understood. She gave me her email address and said she would wait. Julie and I talked about it that night. She said it was my choice. Garrett barely remembered Ruth. He would not miss what he never had. But if I wanted to give my grandmother a chance, Julie would support it. I decided to try. Limited contact, emails and occasional video calls. Clear boundaries. No pressure to reconcile with Dorothy or Amanda. Ruth agreed to everything. She kept her word. She sent Garrett birthday cards with handwritten notes. She asked about school and soccer and Bailey. She never mentioned my parents or sister unless I brought them up. She told other family members the truth about what she learned. She said publicly that I made the right choice protecting my son. Slowly, the narrative shifted. Not everyone believed it. Some relatives stayed loyal to Amanda, but enough people started questioning things. Enough people reached out to apologize. I accepted some apologies. I ignored others. I learned that not every relationship was worth salvaging. In September, Garrett turned 9. We threw a party at our house. 20 kids came. Parents stayed for pizza and cake. Our neighbors brought a piñata. Lucas and his family helped set up games in the backyard. Garrett ran around with Bailey and his friends, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Julie took a photo of Garrett covered in cake, hugging Lucas, both of them grinning. She showed it to me later that night after everyone left. She said this was what childhood should look like. Joy without fear. Celebration without conditions. Love without strings. I agreed. In October, Julie told me she was pregnant. We had not been trying, but we were not preventing either. A second child. A little brother or sister for Garrett. We told him at dinner. He was excited. He asked if the baby could share his room. We said we would figure it out. That same week, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a letter, handwritten, the script shaky. It was from my father. Warren wrote that he was sorry. Sorry for always staying silent. Sorry for letting Dorothy control everything. Sorry for not protecting me from the favoritism. He said he saw now what I was protecting Garrett from. He was proud of me for being stronger than he ever was. He included a check for $10,000. Money from an old savings account Dorothy did not know about. He said to use it for Garrett's education, or whatever we needed. He wrote that he did not expect forgiveness or a relationship. He just needed me to know that someone in that house recognized what I did was right. I sat on the porch and read the letter 3 times. I cried for the 3rd time since leaving Ohio. Not because I was angry, because I was sad for my father. Sad that he spent his whole life being a passenger in his own family. Never standing up, never fighting, always choosing peace over truth. His letter did not fix the past. It did not erase 32 years of silence, but it acknowledged what happened, and that was something. I did not cash the check right away. I put it in a drawer and thought about what to do with it. Eventually, I opened a college fund for Garrett and deposited it there. Maybe my father could not give me what I needed when I was a kid, but he was trying to give something to his grandson. The holidays came. Thanksgiving, just the 3 of us. Julie made turkey and stuffing. Garrett helped with the pie. We watched football and played board games. It was simple and quiet and perfect. I got promoted at work. The company was growing, and they made me senior project manager. Better pay, better benefits. We were stable, secure, happy. In early December, Garrett and I went hiking in the mountains outside Portland. It was cold and clear, the air sharp and clean. We walked for an hour without talking much, just enjoying the quiet. On the way down, Garrett asked if he would ever see Grandma Dorothy again. I stopped walking. I knelt down so we were eye level. I told him the truth. Maybe someday, if she ever understood what she did wrong and truly apologized. But if that never happened, we would still be okay. We had each other. We had Mom. We were about to have a baby sister. We had people who loved us the right way. Garrett thought about that. Then he asked if we could stop for ice cream on the way home. I laughed. My son was free from the weight I carried my whole childhood. The weight of never being enough, of always coming second, of learning that love was something you had to earn by sacrificing yourself. Garrett did not carry that weight. He did not have to. I made sure of it. That was the victory. Not revenge. Not forcing Dorothy and Amanda to admit they were wrong. Not getting the extended family to take my side. The victory was Garrett growing up, knowing he mattered, knowing his feelings were valid, knowing he did not have to shrink himself to make others comfortable. I broke the cycle. I did what my father could not do. I chose my child over my family of origin. I walked away from toxicity, even when it was hard, even when I was called selfish, even when people said I was destroying the family, because the truth is, I did not destroy the family. The family was already broken. I just refused to keep pretending it was not. Garrett grew up with boundaries and respect and unconditional love. He learned that family is not about obligation or guilt. It is about people who show up for you, who celebrate you, who protect you. Blood does not mean you get to hurt someone without consequences. Julie and I taught him that his needs matter, that his happiness is not negotiable, that he does not owe anyone access to his life just because they are related to him. And in teaching him those things, I finally learned them myself. Some people will never understand why I left. They will always see me as the bad son, the cruel brother, the man who walked away from his family. And that is okay. I do not need their understanding. I do not need their approval. I have something better. I have peace. I have a son who smiles without fear. I have a wife who stands beside me. I have a home that feels safe. I have a life built on honesty instead of manipulation. That is enough. That is everything. So if you are reading this or listening to this and you recognize yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You are not selfish for protecting yourself or your children from toxic people. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. You are not destroying the family by refusing to participate in dysfunction. You are breaking a cycle. You are choosing health over history. You are doing what is necessary, even when it is hard, and that makes you brave. That makes you strong. That makes you a good parent. I wish I could go back and tell my 9-year-old self that it was not his fault, that he was not the problem, that being overlooked and ignored and sacrificed was not normal or acceptable, that he deserved better. But I cannot change the past. I can only change the future. And I did. I gave my son the childhood I never had. I built a family where people do not have to earn love by making themselves small. That is the legacy I am leaving. Not bitterness, or anger, or unfinished business with my parents, but a son who knows his worth. A family built on respect. A life where love does not come with conditions. And in the end, that is the greatest victory of all. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to walk away from family to protect yourself or your children? Have you ever been called selfish for setting boundaries? How did you find the strength to do what was right, even when everyone told you it was wrong? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is struggling with the same choice. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family dysfunction and building healthier lives. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes knowing you are not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, choosing yourself is not selfish. It is survival. You deserve peace. You deserve respect. You deserve love, without conditions. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.